now to deal with their babysitter.
Serengeti, this, beautiful documentary. I don't know about you, but when I was watching it at home, I could not help but also narrate your narration. I was watching it like I was watching like Real Housewives or something.
That's funny. That's the first I've heard of that.
What is it like for you bringing to life these characters that are these, beautiful animals of the Serengeti?
It was fun. It was fun, and it was also a novelty. When they came, when they offered me this role, I hadn't really heard a nature documentary narrated by a woman, and I certainly had never heard a nature documentary narrated by an African woman. So both African and African women, and so for all that, I was really excited to try my hand at it. And who doesn't want to play the voice of God? And that's what it kind of feels like when you watch those documentaries. There's so much authority in the voice, and they're interpreting nature and bringing nature to your living room. And so I was excited to get that going.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that was also important. I read to John Downer was that not be the typical white male, narrator that we normally get for nature documentaries. But was there someone whose voice you looked to or thought about when you were preparing your narration?
No, because Simon and John both expressed wanting me to come at this with myself. So in fact, the first day I got into the booth, John Downer, the director, said to me that he really liked, he acknowledged that my accent at this point is neither here nor there. I mean, it's everywhere and nowhere at once. And he encouraged me to kind of tap into my native accent, like my original Kenyan accent. And that was moving, and also kind of gave me a little bit of a panic attack, because I don't even know I don't even know where that voice is, but it was so nice to have someone embrace that and encourage it, because I never knew that I would start my career and that would be called for. So it was just really lovely to bring my full self to this, and, without any sort of pretense.
And of course, being Kenyan, this area is an area that you said you've been on safari, that you know to some extent. So what was it like being able to bring that also part of your heritage to this role as narrator?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not from Tanzania, and I've never been to the Serengeti, but it is right next door. And I have been going on safari all my life. I've been on more safaris than I can count, because I love them, and they were also part of my education and so on. And it's never the same. Like, whenever you're out there, it's a very humbling experience, because nature is happening, and it's never planned, and it's always beautiful and just captivating. So being able to spend this kind of intimate time with these creatures, I mean, they spent a year with these specific animals, groups of animals, that felt really special, because there's only so much you can see when you're out there for real. So it was like, the nature documentaries bring all that wonder to you. So yeah, I really enjoyed the experience, and the ability to represent what I feel is my natural and national heritage.
Did you ever find yourself, while you were doing the narration, watching the documentaries and being sucked in and wondering what was going to happen next to the animals, or wishing that you could step in?
Oh yeah, I mean, luckily for me, they'd shot everything and edited everything, and the music was in place when I started preparing for the work. And so I could watch all 6 parts and get a sense of the arc of the entire thing. And I would be sitting there with paper and pen to take notes if I could, but I would just get sucked in. I was in it. And what's so enthralling is that you're rooting for both the predator and the prey in equal measure, you know, and you go from this one predator and you think, yeah, the lion is dope. I really want her to get food for her cubs. And then you meet the hyena and you're like, oh man, she's a woman. She's taking over her pack. I really want her to succeed. And then the next scene is that they're both going for the same prey. And you're like, oh, who do I root for? I love that. You know, I definitely was very alive watching this show.
I was like, okay, Kike is my favorite, and then over here, Bakari. Listen, that baboon leader.
I know.
Bakari's like a hero of this story. I mean, do you have a favorite of the storylines? I know it's like picking a favorite child.
Yeah, but I have to say the Bakari one is really special. It's a really special story because also it just shows like what we consider modern families of like adoption and stuff in nature, you know. Subira dies and Bakari has to, he chooses to take over and take care of this baby baboon, and just the rivalry between him and the leader. It's all things that we see play out in humanity. And so it's something to see it in our cousins, the baboons, and I think it gives us some perspective, I suppose. But it's such a gentle story, Bakari, you know, and the fact that he takes over he takes over parenting of this adopted child, you know.
It's honestly absolutely beautiful. I found myself, you know, laughing, crying, the full gamut of emotions that I feel like you have here. And then your counterpart, your UK counterpart, Mr. John Boyega. What was it like sharing in this experience of both having your voices to these animals?
It was really cool to learn that he was doing it in the UK. He recorded his before I recorded mine, so I got to hear his. But you know, he's a good friend, so we definitely like bonded over it, and it's like, yeah, kudos. This is cool that we get to do it together.
Were you like, okay, I'm gonna read this part just like a little bit better?
all love. No, it was also too close for it to become competitive, which is good because, yeah, you know, and there's not really nothing to compete. The thing, narrating a documentary is such a personal thing, you know, and it's so subjective. You know, sometimes people ask me, what research did you do? And really, because John Downer and Simon Fuller wanted me to bring myself to this and didn't want me to be ascribing to any sort of like voiceover culture. The only research there was to do was to watch the documentary and to allow it to like wash over me and do the diction and language homework for comprehension, you know. And so, yeah, it was not, yeah, it wasn't, there was nothing to lose or gain from witnessing John Boyega's work.
Yeah, it's more just like, it's a very cool coincidence and a nice thing to share together. And I know we talked about this a bit already, but also, you know, there have not been very many Black women that have done documentaries like this, but also in the outstanding narration category, which albeit it is relatively new in the Emmys, there's only been 2 Black women who've ever even been nominated in that category, Angela Bassett and of course Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, what would it mean to have your name alongside theirs come Emmy season?
What does it mean? I mean, I think this is just another one of those areas where I'm excited about being a part of the change in the narrative. You know, before this opportunity was brought to me, it wasn't even something I was thinking that maybe one day I want to do. You know, it wasn't in my just in my frame of reference, because I think that typical male white British voice as so the standard. I hadn't even had a chance to even challenge that. I wasn't thinking about it. So when it came along, I mean, it feels really great to be kind of, breaking new ground, I suppose, and joining the ranks of the women and the Black women who have gone before me. And I don't know, I just feel like there's a whole lot more to do. And yeah, there's just a whole lot more to do.
Changing the narrative is something that we've been talking about a lot lately. There is this feeling in Hollywood at the moment that, while we've been talking about equality and talking about diversity for a long time, that maybe the industry is beginning to actually start self-evaluating and listening. Are you feeling any of that with like?
I don't know what's going on. I'm on lockdown. It's so strange to be a part of such a tumultuous world and also be in isolation. That is just really bizarre. And so honestly, I don't know what's going on. And as much as I'm keeping, I'm keeping myself informed, but it's very hard to feel movement in any one direction. I mean, if that's what's going on, then that's great. But it's just I'm still trying to adjust to this new way of existing.
Yeah. It's a really complicated time right now, and while there's so many beautiful things, there's also so many sad things. As we've been processing the loss of life, I know you've spoken about justice for so many of the names that we continue hearing in our media, Breonna Taylor and Tony McDade and George Floyd. And I just wanted to ask you briefly why it has been so important for you to be part of that conversation, albeit while we're all in quarantine. Why has it been important to you?
Because I'm a member of that community. I'm a member of that society. And what is happening it's personal. I'm taking it personally. There's no other way to take it. It's personal. And I think this moment where you're saying that Hollywood is responding and people are responding, well, we're requiring them to respond. And, we just cannot let up because it's so easy. I mean, this is a time of deep learning for me too, as an immigrant in this country, of trying to figure out how is this the world we're living in, There's just so much to unpack. There's so much to learn, and there's so much to need to be awake to, because it's when people fall asleep that these things happen. When we grow complacent. And I think right now is a time when we're learning in so many ways how we've been complacent, even in areas that we were unaware of, and we are agitated because of how extreme the injustice has been, with the killing of George Floyd in front of our eyes. I mean, that was so extreme. And what it has done, I think it's just shaken us all awake. And now we are alert. And fewer and fewer people are able to gaslight and able to deny the existence of these serious inequalities. And so I speak up when I feel I have something to say or offer, and because I feel it personally, and I don't know, as the world changes, I want to change with it.
Absolutely. It feels so personal, but it also feels so powerful. All I can do is just feel the power of it every day, and just be so hopeful that, like you said, we've been shaken awake, and that we can't continue to let things just go by. Something that I am working on, we are exploring Hollywood's blind spots, and I wanted to know from you, what would you say is the biggest blind spot in the industry per se?
Okay, well, I think that one of the blind spots, you hear time and again, people calling for more equitable representation, and more so behind the camera, you know, the hiring practices, you see just patterns of of whiteness. And when in questioned about it, you know, often people will say things like, oh, you know, there's just not enough experienced people in that position, and so the default is to offer up the names that have amassed the experience that suit the project that you are working on right now. But so the blind spot is that if that is how you're thinking, then those people who whose names have not been called will never be called, right? So what is considered the experience necessary in order to get a job needs to be informed by this disparity, because otherwise there's no equaling of the playing field. There's never going to be a leveling of the playing field, because you know, Black people have to be given opportunities in order for them to gain the experience necessary for them to become one of the people that are on the list, you know? And so there needs to be special and deliberate attention to addressing that disparity. And it is not, you know, a handout, it is reparations.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's all parts of the industry. It's not, you know, just directors, writers. It goes all the way down to the guilds, to hair and makeup. The fact that, you know, it's hard to get Black hair and makeup on your set because there's no extra budget for the extra hair and makeup. Anyway, I'm just now, I digress. But I did want to bring up your book, Solway, you know, rejoining the New York Times bestsellers list at this moment. What does it mean to address some of these issues for young people? You know, particularly colorism and how we learn to love ourselves as young Black people at this time.
You know, there's moments when I felt quite helpless. Whew. And just the powerlessness you can feel when something so large is happening. And then I saw Suwe being recommended on so many lists, and then it gets onto the bestseller list again, and it was so encouraging, you know, to my artistic spirit, you know, that I may not have been able to save anybody's life, but that my work is soothing souls and hopefully equipping a younger generation to be confident enough to face these adversities. And that felt really good. It was very encouraging to know that, oh, actually, I have contributed to the moment. It's like, it's okay. You know, yeah, so it was it really touched me, as you can see.
Because all you can do is what you can do, and what everyone can do is different.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so good to remember that it's not about doing everything at once. It's not about doing the biggest thing. It's about doing the thing you know how to do. Yeah, and doing it to the best of your ability.
I thank you for being so vulnerable, and I thank you also for using your talents to contribute to that conversation, contribute to our conversation. I also wanted to say a quick congratulations to you for your rap persona, of course, being nominated for BET Award for Melanin.
Oh, ooh, we're going up against the likes of Beyonce. Hold on. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm so excited for Ciara, you know, and I'm so grateful to her for reaching out and having me feature. Yeah, she's really legitimized me.
You had some skills. We were watching all that behind the scenes of us. We know what happened.
Yeah. She's, yeah, well, there we go. And now Troublemaker has retired.
Yeah, once you get the trophy, wait until you get the trophy. But until then, like, we can have a few rhymes on the side.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves.